Sports Geek fam, what up? Antonio Williams from the Sports Geek here. We're going to take some time to talk about Damian Lillard. I know he had a press conference and again, didn't want to take too much away from his efforts in the Olympics. Of course, Dame is always solid, 10 toes down, stands on everything that he says. But he talked about making some changes in Portland and making sure that they are moving toward winning a championship. And of course, we have odds for where Damian Lillard will play next year. But one of the things that I want to talk about before we get into talking about those odds is this is a media driven narrative where championships sort of validate a star player's career. And it kind of started with Michael Jordan, because if we were talking about titles and that validating your greatness, then Bill Russell in basketball has lapped everybody with 11 rings as a player and a coach. But seems like when Michael Jordan came along, we started really validating, saying you have to have titles to really speak and assert your greatness when you're talking about the all-time greats. And unfortunately, that has trickled into the mindset and the approach of players. We've created a pressure cooker where players feel as if they have to go and chase those championships as well. And then we get mad when they come together to form a championship team, when we are the ones that are often creating a narrative about you have to have a championship if you want to be mentioned in the pantheon of great players. So now the latest in that sort of line of great players to never win a championship is Damian Lillard. And of course, these guys are competitive. Of course, these guys want to win. And so we're going to talk a little bit about if Dame is not with the Blazers next year, where does Dame end up? Of course, we have the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks, both at plus 250 odds for having Damian Lillard on their roster for the 2021-22 season. But let's talk about two teams that are very interesting. The Miami Heat are at plus 400 odds, and then the Golden State Warriors are at plus 450. Two very interesting locales for Dame. We're going to talk about Miami. What that brings is now you would assume that Miami is trying to make this deal and keep Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo on the roster. Man, that would make Miami, from a diversity standpoint in terms of scoring, that would make them very, very tough. I can tell you this, Sports Geek fam, as a guard, one of the easiest things and one of the things that guards love the most is when they have an opportunity to play with the big that's a playmaker. In Miami, if Dame were to be there, Bam Adebayo is an incredible playmaker from that center position. That is a valuable commodity in the NBA, and Bam would help Dame immensely get those easy looks. And we know since Dame can shoot the ball, what he does is he can also, in addition to operating on the dribble, with the ball in his hands, operating on the ball, using the dribble to score and to set up teammates, he can actually operate off the ball as well, because he can shoot the ball, understands how to move without the ball as well. Jimmy Butler in his own right is also a solid playmaker as well. So that combination of playing Dame and Jimmy Butler in the backcourt, and both of those guys accentuating each other's skills and complementing each other as playmakers, I think is something that would make Miami very formidable. And then Dame with Bam Adebayo, with Jimmy Butler, would also be playing with elite players that are also elite defenders as well, that are physical, that could also take some of the wear and tear off of Dame. And teams can't just say, okay, we're going to make Dame pay on the defensive end. We're going to make him expend energy guarding, which takes away sometimes from his offensive exploits. But Dame, of course, is a great player. It's Dame time all the time. So Miami would be a very, very interesting locale. And then again, with those plus 400 odds, that's one of the places that you would look at that Dame may end up at. Another one is the Golden State Warriors, which means that if this were 2 years ago, Dame will be going back home. He's going to the Bay, but he's not going to Oakland. Golden State now plays on the other side of the Bay in that great arena that they have. But Dame would be in the Bay. That would be a major draw. Of course, offensively, it would be an incredible draw with those plus 450 odds that Golden State has, when you're talking about having Dame, You're talking about having Steph Curry, and those are two guys, not in terms of average per game, but the total amount of points. Steph Curry and Damian Lillard finished 1 and 2 respectively this year with total points scored in the NBA. So if you're not going to have a dynamic post presence, the pressure that Golden State would put on opposing teams from the perimeter with having Dame and Steph Curry be interchangeable, then adding a healthy Klay Thompson along with Draymond playing in that enforcer, playmaker, rebounding role, man, that would be something to see at Golden State. The other thing what having Dame would give for Golden State is it would give them a player that is in the top 30 to 35 or so players in the NBA in points in the paint. When Golden State lost Kevin Durant, the underrated thing that they lost, it was rim protection. They had another rebounder, but they had a guy that could get points in the paint, which you can do two different ways. If you're not going to have a dominant post guy in terms of we're going to post this guy up, let him play with his back to the basket and get points in the paint, that's something that Dame would give, and Bam Adebayo's in the top 15 or so in Miami for guys with points in the paint. If Dame's in Miami, they would have two guys in the top 35 points in the paint. Putting Dame in Golden State would give them that guy that they have sorely missed since Kevin Durant left, which is someone that can get to the rim. If we're not going to have a post-up guy, let's have a guy that can get into the paint using the dribble, creating space, getting people off balance, using his quickness. The fact that Dame can shoot the ball from the distance that he can shoot the ball from makes defenders play him so close. It makes it easier for him to drive past defenders and score at the rim. So two very, very interesting locales, not necessarily the favorites, but places that if you want to play some money, you might be able to get a nice little return if Dame goes to one of those places. So again, nice places for Dame to be at. I think it'd be amazing if Dame is in either one. The Lakers and the Clippers are also back in there as well. But yes, though I really wanted to talk about those two places. And then again, you got Philadelphia, and of course you also have, in addition to Philadelphia, the Knicks as the two teams that people are saying, you know what, those also will be good spots as well for Damian Lillard. So continue to like and subscribe, Sports Geek fam, on YouTube for us at the Sports Geek. You got Antonio Williams from the Sports Geek talking about these things in sports. Continue to walk with us on this journey, and we'll see you soon.